Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the award winning recovery podcast, Get in the Herd. Today, I'm your host, Nathan Mitchell, and it's going to be just a little intimate me and Justin talking about gratitude, our families, and you all talking about gratitude today. So, before I open up and talk to Justin here, I welcome you to put something in the comments. What are you grateful for? Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and Justin, I don't know about you. Oh, there we got comments already. Look at that.
Already.
Already.
That's
Drop
fantastic.
something in the comments. What are you grateful for? What are you doing? What is that? Johnny Fafs is intimate indeed. I had a feeling you'd latch onto that word, Johnny.
We haven't heard from Johnny in a while actually.
Yeah, Johnny, you've been like doing school stuff and you've had a new job, is that right? Johnny, how's a new job going? Um tell us what's going on, but tell us, what are you grateful for today? Because for me, an important part of recovery for me is remaining grateful and also learning that gratitude is an action. And what does that mean? So, Justin, welcome to the studio as a co-producer and guest today.
Thanks.
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 We're just we're gonna kick it here for a little bit, talk. I don't know what you've got planned for tomorrow, Justin, but I know for me, I'm gonna be with a whole gaggle of people, and yeah. What are you doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow I am spending the day with Teresa,
Ooh,
and we are going to be cooking food and just generally hanging out together. Uh,
the two of you.
the two of us, yes. I mean, there's going to be daughters and granddaughters there and all that.
Well, I was about to say talk about
Um,
intimate, and then you threw the
yeah.
daughters and granddaughters in. So,
Um, but no, we've got a Thanksgiving dinner planned. Not a lot of what we didn't want to do this year is when you have when you're in a relationship and both sides of the family
relationship.
are very much into the holidays. You have several different Thanksgiving dinners that people want you to attend, and you know it can cause the holidays to be more of a hassle than
Mm.
a time for you know enjoying yourselves. And that's what we decided we didn't want to do this year. We didn't want to run around and eat 3 and 4 different Thanksgiving dinners and try to make it here in time and then try to make it there in time. So, and my parents, they stopped doing Thanksgiving dinner years ago because
Oh.
they were sympathetic to the fact that it's a hassle to try to get everywhere,
Mm.
and not to mention the fact that they're getting up there in age. So, cooking it's nice, but when you have to cook Thanksgiving dinner for a whole gaggle of people, uh, it becomes a nuisance almost because
Mm.
you're just, and my dad's always the one that does the cooking. That's not to say that my mom is a bad cook, but my mom's a bad cook. Well, she messes up like toast and cereal and stuff like
Oh,
that.
we all have our
I
strengths, right?
love her dearly. I love her dearly, but not exactly a Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen.
Ooh, yeah, but I don't.
Yeah.
But a Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen means violence and
Well,
anger and yelling.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's a Gordon Ramsay other places outside of the kitchen, but not definitely not in the kitchen.
Well, it's interesting. You brought this up and you used the word hassle, and definitely not something that everybody wants to do, or it's I get that, but I love doing it, and when I'm able to zone
When
out.
you say love, like
Like cooking,
going,
no, I like cooking big giant meals and having people
oh yeah,
over,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and all the surrounding things that go with it. And I when I was house leader over at Chamberlain, we used to do Sunday dinners, and we would do it at 4 because a lot of the guys would go to the 6 o'clock 12-step meeting
Hmm.
here at Hatcher, or they would go play softball, or something, whatever. So I wanted to make sure we did it early enough so people could stop by. And there were some days, like we had 40 people over one night. Yeah, like so much so that like I had to whip up a whole nother dinner. And my days back then would be spent in the morning. I would go volunteer at the food bank, right? And when you've been there with me, you know how that is. And
Yep.
so volunteering at that particular food bank is like I come back with like, we went yesterday. We went yesterday to pick up some stuff, and I'm like, we're filled. Like I've got meat going. I'm like, let's go to all 10 houses, 12 houses, and
Right,
drop
right,
off meat and bread and stuff. And so, but I would get a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, all right, what are we cooking? How are we going to do this? And it wasn't always the most complex meals and stuff, but it was that camaraderie, that coming together. And not everybody wants to do that. I get that, but I actually love doing it. Like I've cooked whole Thanksgiving dinners. I cooked a whole big giant Thanksgiving dinner for one of the Sundays in May, I think, one year, just because we had these big giant turkeys in the freezer and we cooked
right.
them. But I did a whole Sunday meal, like, and I mean a whole Thanksgiving meal from start to scratch. But I've also done it, similar meals on Christmas, and I like it.
Yeah,
Me,
yeah.
Nathan. Yeah.
Well, and that's not to say that, you know, my dad, I know he loves cooking. He was always, when I was growing, well, when my brother and I were growing up, he was always the one to cook dinner and make us breakfast and all that good. He was the cook in the house.
Mm,
And you could definitely tell that he loved what he did because, dinner was always really random, and he would always get these crazy ideas and try them out. And, very rarely did he make a bad dinner.
yeah.
But like I said, he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore.
Mm.
And
Paka, paka.
yeah, like getting around in the kitchen ain't as easy as it was at
Yeah.
one time. He's definitely not like on his deathbed by any means. But,
Well, Ashley Jackson says she loves cooking big family dinners. Ashley, you were part of the contingent over at Delro's house last year that cooked big Thanksgiving dinner for everybody. So I think I remember last Thanksgiving because there was a lot of good cooking in our houses. And I don't know about you, Justin, and about y'all in the audience listening right now, but last year. So let me tell you my recovery journey in the holidays. The first holiday season, my family still didn't really want to have much to do with me, and it was a lot of,
mhm.
that was in 2018. It's probably me not wanting to be with them too. But 2019, I didn't want to be with them. I was still being, me,
Mhm.
and 2020 comes along. I wanted to be with everybody, but we had the pandemic going on. So
Mhm.
we didn't get together and do all that. So now it's 2021. I have got, I'm, yeah, right. Actually, it was you. Right. That's right. It was a blast last year. There must have been 40 people in that house for Thanksgiving dinner at Delrose. Um, but this year, 2021, I'm vaccinated. I've got the booster. My family's all vaccinated and stuff. And it's like we're all getting together, and I've told myself and I've told other people, it's like if I don't leave Thanksgiving dinner feeling, sticky from having the kids climb all over me, dog hair covered, and just like completely bloated and gross, then it's a failure to me. And I mean, I know that's kind of silly, and I don't always want all those people around me, but I'm really looking forward to this tomorrow. For me, and I've had a lot of Thanksgivings where I was by myself, um, or I was with people, but I was by myself. And so I get it. Sometimes it's nice to have a cool, relaxed, laid back one, and I'm looking forward to those too in the future. But for whatever reason, I get to see my grandmother tomorrow. She's 96, and I was at the grocery store right before we went live. I was at the grocery store picking up some stuff to make cookies, using my great grandmother's recipe to bake some cookies.
What
Uh,
kind of cookies were they?
they're called Empire biscuits,
Okay, Empire
and what
biscuits.
they are is they're two shortbread cookies
Mhm.
that are sandwiched, or that sandwich raspberry jam and with a little royal icing on the top, and some people put a half a maraschino cherry. I do that.
I have to ask a question. What makes icing royal?
I don't. That's a very good question.
Okay.
Very good
Okay.
question
All right.
that I don't have the answer to. But it is. And see, when I read, so what I was doing when I got the recipe I guess last week, my aunt Barbara, my grandmother's daughter, sent it to me, through Facebook, right? And I saw it's a picture of the recipe, and it's my grandmother's handwritten recipe, and it's like, okay, that's good, and it just says butter. Well, I'm
Mhm.
like, do you want salted butter or unsalted butter? And then it actually said vanilla icing, but I knew what she meant, or I knew what that meant. And so, but I thought, okay, royal icing can be made with milk or it can be made with water. So I'm like, all right, there's two questions right off the bat. And then my grandmother's recipe is very specific about making sure your hands are warm from warm water when you're kneading the dough. And I'm like, geez, talk about some specifics. And I started to
Hey, you got to do it right.
Oh, you got to do it right. Well, I started to, text back to my Aunt Barbara and my cousin Kristen, who's hosting the family tomorrow. And then I'm like, well, the heck with this. Why don't I just call the source? And I'm really grateful that my 96-year-old grandmother's still around. I can just call her up and be like, hey, grandma, this recipe of yours that, she's probably never going to make again. But let me talk to you about that recipe. What do you mean when you say vanilla icing? What are you using? And she gave me the deets.
The deets.
The deets that I actually, I need to actually transcribe, put down on paper so that I have it for the next time. And that recipe, my mother's banana bread recipe, somewhere I have my grandmother's recipe for candied walnuts, which I would love to find. It's
candied walnut. I've never heard of candied walnuts before.
It might have been candied pecans, candied nuts.
Either way, if there's candy and either walnuts, pecans, whatever involved, I'm in.
Well, so I have made that recipe several times. It's not that hard. What I've done with that recipe is found other ways to tweak it. So you can do it, the straight up way with a nutmeg and cinnamon on it. I love to throw in some red pepper or some black pepper. Oh, a little kick, probably with a Cajun spice or something. Probably even take out the cinnamon and nutmeg, throw in some Old Bay. Oh, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be real good. Anybody else hungry today?
Last night I made dinner at my
what'd you cook?
house. I had boneless, skinless chicken thighs.
Boneless, skinless chicken thighs.
Non-boneless, skinless chicken. Flies. Thighs.
So wait, non-boneless?
So
boneful?
Boneful, yes.
Boneful thighs.
Bony thighs.
Bony thick and chicken thighs. Oh gosh.
What's happening?
It's just coffee, I promise.
So yeah, chicken thighs, lots of chicken thighs, and some green beans, like the snap style green beans. But I sauteed them and I put like a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of kosher salt.
The beans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were swimming in butter. And what else? Some thyme leaves.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thyme leaves, ground up. And yeah, they were freaking delicious. I sauteed them almost to the point where they were burned, but just like right before it, like they were all wrinkly and like almost turning black, but not quite. So they had like that little bit of crunch to them, and they were fantastic.
Ooh.
They were fantastic. Yeah.
Did you see those burgers I got yesterday?
I did.
Oh, I cooked those last night.
Did you?
Oh yeah. Oh God, they were good. They were good. We put some jack cheese on it. And I had a brioche bun. And I didn't. I don't think I have bacon at home. If I thought about it, I would have grabbed bacon while we were at the place yesterday. But that would have been nice. But no, those were good burgers. Yeah, and I had that with I shared that with one of my housemates. We had burgers together, and then I don't know, a little sesame salad. But he had some cheese doodles or something with the sesame.
A delicious brioche bun.
Oh, the brioche. I just feel like a snob saying brioche, but yeah. if you know, you know.
Yeah.
There were comments that we didn't talk to. Johnny Fab said up there, he says at the beginning, he says, grateful for the ability to be present in my life and the lives of my friends. Show up and keep showing up. That's the secret. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Johnny Fab, it's good to see you up there, buddy.
That's a big thing for me in my recovery, is being able to be present in the lives of my friends and my family, because in active addiction, I absolutely was not. I was there physically, kind of, but I was absolutely not there mentally at all. I was just kind of existed. And I don't even know if I'd call it really existing. But now I can just do all the normal things, like I'm actually looking forward to the holidays this year.
Yeah.
Not like shit, like I'm probably going to be going through withdrawals because blah, 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 blah. And this, that, and the other. Like, yeah. Cause Christmas last year was okay, but it was awful because
It was
Yeah,
okay, but it was awful.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
okay because, like I made it through it, but yeah, I it was Christmas, man. Like nobody's around on Christmas,
Yeah.
and I was going through horrible withdrawals, and I remember going over to my parents' house and just kind of sitting there, and just being like, just feeling like trash, and
Mm.
making up some excuse as to why we had to leave, and all I wanted to do was leave and go back home and go flop down in the bed again, and that sucked because I knew my parents knew something was going on, but this year it's like it's completely different because it's just like I'm just gonna go and like enjoy the time with my parents and you know that whole chestnut.
Yeah. I love being around the little kids,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
experiencing the holidays through them.
Mm-hmm.
I also have an aunt, my aunt Barbara, the one who she's in her 70s, and she's like a little kid around the holidays. Um, but when I was using and I was at the holidays, like I didn't want to be around that.
Oh
And
yeah,
well,
yeah,
I mean, I did, but I didn't. Like I
yeah.
felt so ashamed, and
Sure.
so yeah, it was scary.
There's a huge feeling of shame. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's especially when you're around when you're in certain situations and you have to go use again,
yeah,
and you've got the means to
yeah,
do so, and you're
yeah. I
just
know.
like,
Yeah,
shit, now I have to go find a corner, I have to go to a bathroom, to a stall, I got to do something. Okay, time to do what I
yeah,
got to do. And then you come back and it's like everybody knows, everybody knows, everybody knows,
yeah.
it's such it honestly, it's a pain in the ass. It stops being fun so fast and just becomes a necessity.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes a nightmare.
The first, that first Thanksgiving, for me when I was clean, and I had been, I'd been sober in recovery for at that point, what, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, so like almost 9 months at that point, or 10 months at that point. Um, and still, the first 2 months of my recovery are in jail, and so and there was a lot of me blaming people still because everything was everybody else's fault except for mine still,
Yeah, nothing's
mm,
ever
and
Justin's fault.
right, and when I got to those first holidays, like everything that had been going on that previous year before, I got into sobriety, and that's when I was at my worst in my addiction, my
Mhm.
worst ever. My grandfather was dying and about to, he ended up dying in that January, which I wasn't around for that, and he was a really neat guy. I mean, I had a whole long life with him. I'm not beating myself completely about that, but it's still, anyway, all that's happening, and it started to replay,
Mhm.
right around the holidays again. And so of course I'm coming up, it, in November, Thanksgiving, the end of November, my sobriety date or my recovery date is February 18th. So I'm replaying those couple of months from the year prior, and I'm really grateful that at Thanksgiving that first year I had already left McShin. I had already left our housing, and I was living in that sort of be that 4 months where I moved out of McShin, and I was living with people in active addiction, and me being on the brink of active addiction.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I doing I was living, and so in many ways some of the things I did in that time period were the grubbiest things I'd done my entire life, and I was still sober. You know,
Right.
and I look at that, but even then though, like that first Thanksgiving, I remember I was alone, but I went to an eating meeting, an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that had a meal attached to it, and
Mhm.
then they had a big giant meeting and they shared food and whatnot, and then and I met some people. I saw some people there. I didn't know many of the folks there, but some I did, and I went with somebody. There was they have these marathon meetings, and I must have gone with somebody somewhere for one of those marathon meetings and just hung out for a while. Just stayed there with my people, and that was really helpful. You
Sorry,
know,
man.
and you all right?
Yeah, my cord was
Oh,
wrapped completely around
well,
my
you're about to.
foot.
You're stuck on your chair, I think, back there
Yeah,
too.
this I gotta get it.
Yeah. You know what? So shout out to anybody who gets us some Bluetooth speakers.
Yeah, because these cords are
These,
obnoxious.
but I do love my cans. And then Christmas, that first Christmas though. So between Thanksgiving and Christmas, like for me, shit hit the fan again. And it was really that moment of, you know what, this me way is not working. And I asked, I still didn't have a regular job. I wasn't making any money. I was living with people in active addiction, and they were using different drugs than I used. So like I convinced myself that I was okay until somebody brought in a drug that's similar to the drugs that I used and brought me down. And I was like, I can't stop thinking of this.
Hmm.
And it's when, fortunately I did have a sponsor, and I had a few people in my network I still talk to. And so, between Thanksgiving and Christmas is when that shit hit the fan for me. And I came back to McShin. I came back to our recovery housing, I think like 3 or 4 days before Christmas that year. And then had a really awesome day, here for Christmas. Some of the staff members who stayed here during the holidays, we cooked, we ate, and well, yeah, we did. We cooked. I was at Chamberlain. We cooked. We ate. We ate. With the guys here. We just kind of just hung out, played games, puzzles, and stuff. Because I wasn't in a place. I wasn't really in a place. Excuse me, of connection. With my family of origin at that time.
Hmm.
So it was a good experience, a great experience. And so tomorrow, the following year, that was 2018. The following year, 2019, we introduced something new at Thanksgiving. And that Thanksgiving morning, we did our first gratitude meeting here.
Hmm.
And that was a really, really awesome meeting because, here at McShane, of course, all of our staff are, I, all the staff, I don't know about the interns, but all the staff are people in recovery, and at different levels. Some people really long, 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 long term, some
Hmm.
people, long term. And then sometimes, some of us, I think there's some people on staff who might just have 2 or 3 months. Um, and all of that, gets interwoven in the day. And people, our intensive program, they meet with one staff member here and a volunteer here and whatever, blah blah blah. Throughout the day we have programming. But when we do that gratitude meeting on that, tomorrow morning, when we do this gratitude meeting, everybody's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like, the staff are up on the stage and the participants are down, in the seats like we do at the community meeting on Wednesdays. This is everybody's in a circle, and everybody gets the opportunity. And I just, that's a really grounding meeting for me. And so I will be there tomorrow. I'll be there for that. And then, my day tomorrow, my day's gonna start. I'm not gonna I'm gonna do it. I'm going to the gym first thing in the morning. They're opening at 7, and they're going to the gym. I have a lane reserved for 7:30, to go swim, and then I'll get out of the pool. I'll come here, go home. Maybe I'll go back and lift a little bit or something because I don't have to be at Thanksgiving till I think 1. But take it easy for me.
Hmm.
But I'm glad, like around here, I mean, the manager over the intensive house, the house leader, he's got 2 big giant turkeys and all the fixins. He's gonna be He's probably cooking now as we speak. I know,
Right.
Kev,
Right.
right? I know that probably the women are gonna do something. Last year, one of the female houses did a big giant spread, and we all went over there, and other houses did stuff, and it's kind of it's kind of neat.
So wait, the meeting tomorrow morning is not just a staff meeting.
No, it'll be staff and participants. Anybody who wants to come.
Oh, I thought it was just for staff.
No, 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 no. Well, they'll all be
Okay.
here. Everybody will be here.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a. What are you coming? You can bring Teresa.
Uh, don't know. I might.
Yeah,
I might. I'm
yeah.
not
So
100% sure.
that's all right. I do happen to love that meeting. Um, we I get I get so, and I talked about this a little yesterday. I get so tied up in the day to day frustrations of the the silly paperwork slash administrative things of my job that I forget sometimes the bigger picture and the people who are in the bigger picture. And when it comes right down to it, okay, if I screw up a name on a flyer, or if I forget to send an email fast enough, the world doesn't come to an end.
It. Oh, yes, it does.
But I'll put that on myself. But what matters to me, at least, and the best part of my favorite part of my job is those connections that I get to make with the people, the hope shots that we all give each other. And it's like, an opportunity as staff and participants to all be on the same level field and give each other hope shots. And that's a really powerful feeling to me. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. Yeah. Five hearts. I love it. I love it. Uh, I did something before. I told you I went to the grocery store, right?
No, you did not.
Hey, Keon, I see you up there liking our things. Good to see you, buddy. I hope you're doing all right. Before the podcast today, I told you I'm making these Empire biscuits, right? Empire biscuits, and let me
Oh
tell you,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, let me tell you what they are. So Empire biscuits, right? Two shortbread cookies, sandwich with some raspberry preserves in the middle or raspberry jam. I struggled because I was looking for the seeded raspberry jam and I couldn't find seeded raspberry jam. It was all seedless, so I went with raspberry preserves. So I had to call my grandmother again to make sure, like there was, is jam okay? Are preserves okay other than jelly? Because she's very specific about some things, and I don't want to screw up this recipe. I will tweak
Would
it.
you please pass the jelly?
Well, I will tweak it in the future. I absolutely will. But this being the first time I've made this recipe, which is my great grandmother's recipe from Scotland, I'm going to try to make it the right way she knows.
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know.
That's fair.
You know.
I don't blame you.
Before I start saying, well, let me use this fancy, avocado spread, or something. I don't know, whatever stupid stuff. But
Would you please pass the old fruit? Would you please pass the old fruit?
But
Someone pass it. Sorry.
Well, yeah, she's very specific about putting 2 tablespoons full of rice flour. And I've been saying this all day, and people are asking me, what is rice flour? And I'm like, well, it's flour made from rice. I mean, I don't really have a non-sarcastic
that is made from rice.
I don't really have a non-sarcastic answer for that, because up until just last week, I'd never really heard of rice flour, but it doesn't really surprise me since you can make flour out of pretty much anything. So anyway, I didn't find rice flour at the Kroger by my house, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be tough to find, because first world problems here.
Right, of course.
But sure enough, I call or my sister texts me this afternoon as we're driving out, as I'm driving out with a participant to go shop and find this stuff. My sister says, "What time are you going to our cousin's house tomorrow?" And I said, "Well," I was about to answer, and I said, "Well, let me just call Robin." I called my sister Robin. I called Robin, and we're sitting there talking, and my sister. Whenever my sister answers the phone, Robin, if you're listening, I absolutely love when you answer the phone. She might be listening. Sometimes she watches the show. She's hello. That's my sister.
Hello.
Hello, and it's the cutest thing, right? It's her thing. My sister is so sweet, and I had a participant I had Nick in the car with me. He was on the show last week, 2 weeks ago, and Nick was in the car with me, and so we're talking, and my sister's going into all of the anxiety she has around when she's gonna show up to Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And to give you some history, so my sister and her entire family, they're all vegan. So, Thanksgiving meal is not, not something they're gonna, and they're not obnoxious about it. They're not gonna, they're not gonna bring their own food. They're just gonna come and they want to be with family, yada yada. But the anxiety is, do you come before dinner? Do you come after dinner? She's thinking, well, everybody's coming at 1. I'll just come at noon, because she doesn't want to stay too long because they've got little ones and young ones, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, Robin, they say we're eating at 2, but it's family, and
So 3:30.
yeah, that's what I said. I said,
Yeah.
you're like earliest probably 3. And she's like, yeah, well, shoot, when do I come? And if I come at noon, I'm in the way. And she's going through this whole, and I'm like, I recognize that sort of, what do I do? What do I do?
Mhm.
And I was like, wait a second, you need to come after dinner. Come, you all eat, do your thing. It's like, well, we don't, I'm like, whatever, do your thing, come over, and then come and play games, because that's when the fun stuff happens,
Right.
right? I don't know about y'all, but we lay around, and here's the kicker: you saw the email or you saw the text message I sent you.
Yes.
My Aunt Barbara, right, the little kid. My Aunt Barbara sends a message to me. Oh, I don't know, over the weekend, and she says, "There's a likely chance of a Nerf gun war at Thanksgiving. Be prepared. Tell your people."
Yeah. I like the tell your people
The
part.
tell your people part cracks me
Let
up.
them know.
Let them know. Tell your people. And I love this because A, it's definitely going to happen, and B, like, if you know my family, how my Aunt Barbara's like the first one up in the morning on Christmas Day. She's like waking people up at 5 a.m. Even her own kids. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember this from the holidays, when we would have these big giant sleepovers at my grandparents' house, where like you might have 16, 18 people. And my grandparents had, when they retired, they had this cute little retirement home, but their home, but it, three little bedrooms, and it was a great house for the two of them and a couple of guests, but all the family, which actually was a blast because all the kids are sleeping all over the floor in the living room. You got people sleeping under beds. You got people, more people making beds with. I don't know, man. I love thinking about all this stuff. But it was always my Aunt Barbara coming down and waking everybody up and making sure we got up and did Christmas and having a blast. And so, to know that that's going to happen tomorrow, I'm like, Robin, come for that.
I just remember looking forward to so I'm like, my parents got divorced when I was really young, and then they remarried. So I've got
Whoa.
two families, right? So,
Oh, they remarried other people.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry. I guess I should have been more specific.
Well,
yeah, they split up and then they decided, we're gonna give this another try.
I know people like that. So
yeah. No, that's my fault. I should have been more specific. But no, they got divorced and then remarried different people. And so I always had, two separate families and I can always remember going to the different, family functions on both sides of the family and being like, all right, I'm going to get a good haul here. I'm going to get an okay haul here. This haul is going to suck because it's at grandma and grandpa's house. So it's going to be socks and underwear. This haul is going to be awesome because, I can just remember trying to plan my day. Okay, if I bring,
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, my dad's excuse me.
I'm actually, I feel you on that. Yeah.
It's been a long week.
It's
It's been a long week. It's only Wednesday.
I know, dude. I woke up. I kid you not. Sorry to interrupt, but I woke up on Monday thinking it was Friday.
Yeah, it feels like Friday.
I woke up on Monday
totally
thinking
like
it was Friday. Yeah.
But no, I can remember Christmas at my mom and dad's house. My grandparents on my dad's side used to drive down from Ohio. They lived in Cleveland. And they would show up around 11:30 Christmas Day. And I remember getting so excited when they would show up, and not because they were there, but because they would open their trunk and just have garbage bags full of stuff. And we would drag in 4 and 5 garbage bags worth of presents. And they would always give us the coolest stuff in the world. I don't know if there was a collaboration between my parents, my grandparents, and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And, but it was they always would just bring us loads of stuff. And now I think about it and I'm like, man, if only I knew what I had then, because I mean, my grandparents have all been dead for years, and it's man, I would right now, I feel like I would give up all of that stuff if I could hang out with them in their basement one more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to get all
no, but I feel that.
all in my feels and everything, but that's the thing when it comes to the holidays. When you're younger, man, you really don't realize what you're actually doing. You're spending time with people that you're spending time with people that are, the closest people that you have in your life. Aside from friends, your family is that's your family. And you don't, especially when you're long distances away, you don't get to see them all the time. You don't get to talk to them all the time. And
so they were driving from Ohio. Where were you?
Virginia.
Here
yeah.
in Richmond.
Yeah.
And
I remember, the last time I saw, you know, I mean, my grandparents on my dad's side were just they were obviously typical Northerners. They lived on Lake Erie. They were very strict, very stern. I can remember, God, there was this one time my grandpa scared the crap out of me, my brother, and my cousin because my grandparents had this basement that was a finished basement, and it had a pool table, a bar, a liquor cabinet, a living room, video game. Like, it was basically like the coolest man cave you've ever seen in your life, right? So one of the things that he had in there was a gun case, because
Ooh, God.
he was an avid hunter. He loved hunting. And so, yeah, just like, a collection of shotguns and I think a couple of rifles. And one of his rules when we would go down there was don't ever go into the gun cabinet. Ever, ever, ever. That is completely off limits. And one of us, I'm not sure if there was this toy gun that he kept in the gun case. And he was like, if you want to play with the toy gun, you come get me and I will get it out of the gun case for you. Then you can play with it.
He kept the toy gun in the gun case.
Yes. And it was specifically to teach us a lesson.
Okay.
It was just to teach us a lesson, basically.
Yeah.
These are the rules that you follow them, or, well, I'll finish the story. So we decided, we don't have to ask him. I want to play with the toy gun. So we went and got the toy gun out of the gun case. I knew the code to the lock, which is how I got the gun. Yeah. So he comes downstairs and I'm holding this toy gun just like.
How old were you?
Shit. I'm 11.
Ooh,
10, 11.
you knew the code.
Young. Yeah.
Deviant.
Yeah. Well, he had written it down so he wouldn't forget it, and I was supposed to stay out of his workshop, and I didn't stay out of his. I disobeyed. I disobeyed everything.
You were an 11-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was an 11-year-old. I did what I wanted. So he very calmly came up to me. He said, "Hand me the gun." Put the gun in his hand. He walked back towards the stairs, walked halfway up the stairs, takes the gun and smashes it on the stairs. Pieces fly everywhere, just destroys this gun. And then he looks back down at us. He goes, "Now clean it up," and walks back upstairs. And we were just all like, we were standing there with wet pants and just, dude. Okay. After that, none of us ever disobeyed anything he said ever again. Ever. That was probably one of the most horrifying moments, not just of me knowing my grandfather, but of my life. But yeah, that's my grandpa's gun story.
That's relatable. I don't remember either of my grandfathers ever getting angry. I'm sure they did. I'm not saying they didn't, but I don't remember them ever being angry. That.
Oh, he wasn't. It wasn't that he was angry. He was just very. This is how things will be done. If things are not done this way, there will be consequences. Here will be the consequences.
Yeah.
Like very straightforward, to the point, but there was no like he'd never do anything like lay a hand on us or anything like that. Like, there was no spanking. There was no nothing like that. It was just, you're going to regret doing this if you screw up somehow.
What was so Thanksgiving for you, right? What was Thanksgiving like? You had you said three different families that you would go to, two different families?
I had two different families.
Yeah.
So normally what would happen is I would go over to my biological father's house, and we would go over to like a big, family dinner over at one of my aunt or uncle's houses.
Okay.
My father and stepmother never used to cook dinner themselves. It was always going over somewhere else's house. Um, and then and it's hard for me to remember, but either I would stay there for the evening or I would come back and eat dinner again at my mom and dad's house. Um, it was always just too much, it was
Yeah.
just too much. And it was just like, I don't, but I mean, I was, I mean, my parents split up when I was 2.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of, I got used to that going back and forth lifestyle. And like every holiday I knew was going to be spent at both parents, both families' houses at some point. Um, and I never, that's just how it was.
Yeah.
Um, but I can always remember wanting to stay at my mom and dad's house, um, just because I felt better over there. I felt safer, and I felt not not as much of an outcast over there.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like I was part of the family so much when I was with my father and my stepmother, and I never quite grasped why. You know, it was always I don't know, it was just always a feeling of like you're different, you're not like us. There's something different going on, but I never felt that over at my mom and dad's house. Um, and my dad, he ended up adopting me when I was I think I was in my early to mid 20s. We did an adult adoption.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Maybe.
Yeah, my original last name is Andrews.
Oh,
Yeah, it's only been Bognar for how old am I? 41, 25. That's 15 years.
just Mr. Andrews.
Justin Richard Andrews. That was my name before it was Justin Richard Bognar.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
and but my oh look.
My sister is
Hey,
watching or
Robin.
listening, and she's saying she's coming at 3, and I was right. I love it, Robin. I love that. That's funny. I hope Dominic was getting his hair cut. That's what they were. They
Oh,
were at the.
gotcha.
They were not at the Publix grocery store, at the hair cuttery in that shopping center. They were just getting there. So anyway, I hope he looks good. Yeah, it's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving at my grandparents was the time, like, well, for instance, she would hand us catalogs and tell us to circle and initial all the things that we wanted in the JC Penney catalog. We wouldn't get everything we wanted, but she would get ideas for Christmas presents from the catalog there. And that was always going to be, that's where the good haul, like you were talking about, Justin,
Hmm.
that's where the good haul of presents came from. um and that's where that started. But it was always, it was always good there. But I remember, I don't know. I remember that my mom's family. We always did Thanksgiving at my grandparents, my dad's family. We never really did it there up in North. So my parents got divorced when I was 8, when my sister was 2. And my dad, lived in Virginia Beach. We lived in Virginia Beach, and my grandparents retired down to the Outer Banks from South Jersey.
Hmm.
My other grandparents, my
That's right.
mom.
You're from South Jersey. I keep forgetting you're from
Yeah, I'm
Jersey.
originally from Jersey. My mom and both my mom and my dad grew up in the same town. They didn't go to well, they were in school together, I guess, for a little bit, but they didn't. Actually, they really didn't, did they? Um, I don't know if they would have crossed now that I think about it. But anyway, they were, they went to the same school district, yada yada, and their families knew each other. My grandparents knew my dad's parents knew everybody.
Hmm.
They were that type of people. It was always 4th of July was always at their house on Knox Boulevard in Marlton, New Jersey. Shout
Right,
out,
right.
shout out Marlton. It was always 4th of July. They were very involved with the Presbyterian Church. Where I grew up, you're either Catholic or Jewish, except my mom's family is Catholic, but my grandparents were Presbyterian, and they were involved in the little Presbyterian church down the road, and I remember going there. My mom and dad actually got married in that church, and I remember that church. I remember when they retired, they donated an organ. I mean, that's the kind of people they were, you know, and uh, I think growing up, my dad didn't fit in,
Hmm.
and he didn't. And I don't want to tell my dad's story. I mean, I talk about my dad a lot, but I know that my dad was not. I don't know. I know my dad is struggles with fitting into that family,
Right.
and it's so confusing to me because I fit in with that family, but that tension has always created and still continues to create an odd dynamic about, I don't really want to be. And of course, my parents have been divorced since I was 8. So I sometimes find myself in a position where I'm talking to loved ones, family members, and both of us bad mouthing my mom and my dad for different reasons, but also so it that definitely that definitely formed some, what, I need to be away from these people as I got a little older, and I got into my 20s especially. I started to separate out. Is there somebody at the door? Oh.
No, I thought somebody was trying to come in. It was just somebody walking by.
Oh gosh.
I Sorry.
No, 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 no. I'm
Squirrel.
squirrel too, right? But squirrels are not good for herds. I can't
They
really
are not.
herd a squirrel.
They are
They
not.
are not. Yeah. But that tension, man, I felt that tension growing up, and then some other things happened in my teenage years that I'm not going to sit here and talk about right now. But it's sort of, the holidays I had when I was a young kid are the ones I always look back at,
Right.
and even with the
Right.
tension of my father, like when we were growing up, there was a lot of, my dad lived in Virginia Beach, my mom lived in South Jersey when they got divorced, and my dad got custody of the two boys. My mom got my sister, and we drove up and down Route 13, which connects, goes over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, the big one, the giant one, the 18-mile one that connects at the mouth of the bay. And we used to go over that all the time and up, straight up the Eastern Shore, et cetera. And there are certain things that I remember about going back and forth. And oftentimes, so I have aunts and uncles on my dad's side too, who also live in South Jersey. And so we would go up there to spend holidays with them. But they also happen to be either, they were in the town next to the one my mom lived in. So anyway, yeah, we got to see everybody in one big swoop. And sometimes my Aunt Nancy would be the one who would have Thanksgiving or Christmas. I don't think we did Thanksgiving. Anyway, but we would go up there, and there were all these little rituals that we did driving. And one thing that I remember, and if anybody's watching right now, and I know my sister will appreciate this, and if anybody's watching and also watched when I was traveling around the country last year, there was this little song that my dad would sing. We would sing every time we crossed the state line. I'm not going to do it now, but and it's one of those memories that just sticks with me. Like I get frustrated with this, and you're not the person I want you to be, and you didn't do what you needed to do for me, and I still easily get into that blaming people game,
Right.
and it I don't, my dad's not really in my life, and I love looking back at these things because I want today I'm choosing to have grace for myself, have grace for other people. I'm choosing to find the gratitude in those situations. I mean, my dad didn't really have to do all that driving,
Right.
all those times, and then he did make it fun. Like we played games in the car. We always played games in the car. We laughed a lot. There's certain things that I hear on the radio, and back then it was radio, and if you ever driven the Eastern Shore in the mid '80s to the mid '90s, it's like you don't really get the best reception, but there's certain things you did get, and I remember listening to what is it, Alice's Restaurant, that was always played.
Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah, it's a if anybody's listening, point. Oh man, we're at 50 minutes. Um,
Yes, we
Alice's
are.
Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Look it up. It's there's a whole story. I don't even know the whole story. I just remember listening to it. I've listened to it as an adult since then, but to be honest, it's several minutes long, and I have the attention span of
A
a
gnat.
well, I was going to say a Generation Y, but Generation Wire, but
Generation Y.
Generation Y. There's poor millennials. They're finding out what we found out as Generation Xers. Wait,
Yep.
do you consider yourself X or millennial?
I'm definitely Generation X.
Yeah, okay. I'll say you seem more
Yeah,
X.
and I'm
yeah.
right on. I'm technically like my birth year month is like right on the cusp
Mm,
because it was like if you were born in like mid to late 1980,
yeah.
then you are considered Generation X, and I'm August. So
Yeah. Well, my parents are boomers for sure. And they're
oh, my parents are boomers in the like they were the definition of a
well,
boomer.
see, my parents are late boomers, and my dad's 55, my mom's 59, and I think my dad. Well, both my dad and my mom, they sort of missed that whole strife of the '60s. Oh, Robin's linking it to Alice's Restaurant. That's funny. But I think they missed the whole revolution of the '60s because they were just a little too young. But I think my dad, more than anybody, in the '70s came. He did the hair. He did the. What are you trying to do?
I'm
Trying to make it clickable in the
well,
comments.
no, I'm trying to pull it up.
Oh,
If I can copy and paste the link into YouTube,
oh yeah, right.
then I can.
Huh. We're for those of you listening right now, we're trying to figure out how to use StreamYard. We're trying to build the airplane as we fly it. It's a thing we say around here, McShin. I love that thing.
Trying to build the airplane as we fly.
Have you not heard John say that?
I probably have.
Yeah.
Uh,
Shinholzer says it all the time. But anyway, there's some really happy memories around the holidays, and for me, it's really important for me to go back to those because I think there was a very dark period as a child and a very dark period as an adult that are more fresh. I think more recent
yeah.
experiences, and I have choices these days, and for me, the choice, is more often to go to the, what, I want to be happy. I want the people around me to be happy. I want to be solution based. So
Yeah.
yeah. What are you most looking forward to eating tomorrow? Are you doing a big meal?
Uh, I, honestly, I don't know what Teresa has in store. We kind of sat down last night and tried to come up with a grocery list. We both suck at doing that. Because I'm like, just give me some meat and potatoes, and that's like my whole, my whole thing. Happy Thanksgiving back, Robin. Can't wait to see you either. It's gonna be awesome whenever it happens, and it'll happen. Yeah, no, I think okay, so I love green bean casserole.
I do too. With the traditional.
Oh
with
god, the whole thing with the onion straws and everything on it.
Gotta
Yeah,
have
it's so good.
Yeah.
Um,
And there are certain things you only eat on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I never. When do I ever eat?
and when
Yeah.
it's never ever, but it's always okay.
Or cranberry
so,
sauce.
I can't stand cranberry
Oh, I
sauce.
love it.
Cannot stand
Mm.
cranberry sauce. So Teresa makes just a monster macaroni and cheese dish where it's like 1,000 different types of cheese and it's just like the noodles are like floating in cheese. It's so good. It's ridiculous. She puts all types of in fact, I don't even know what she puts in it, but it's just ridiculous. Like you can see like the different types of cheese as you like pick it. Like It's so good.
My artery
She
is just crinkled a little
Yeah,
bit.
like,
Oof. Yeah.
she doesn't realize I don't think she realizes how good of a cook she is. Like, she's an awesome cook,
Ooh.
like and she'll sit there and, like, just throw stuff like, she'll just, "I don't know, this is what was in the cabinet, this is what we have,"
Uh-huh.
just, like, throw stuff together, and it's just, like, this gourmet, like, spread, and I'm just like, "You crushed it," and she's like, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is freaking awesome," like but, me, I'm just like, "Oh, we got, steak and, baked potatoes," and it's, like, the only thing I ever cook.
Yeah, but that's all right.
Steak, chicken,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm not creative at all when it comes to cooking, unless I'm poor.
Well,
If I'm poor or I'm broke or in active addiction, if I was high, I would definitely cook up some shit. But that would be like, wonder what happens if I take a peppermint patty, put some peanut butter outside of it, and then
that actually sounds good.
dip it in some cocoa, and
That actually
like.
sounds delicious. Well, don't knock. I mean, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
You
It's
know,
true.
the creative engine is driven by solutions to
Ugh.
problems, and I'm with you on that. I love just pulling out what do I have in the cupboards and making it. For the long time, I still try to do this, but I like to think I'll go periods where I'm like, okay, I'm not buying anything from the grocery store. What do I have? What can I make from that? And that's it. And most of that's born out of try to save money. But sometimes it's really most of the time it's always trying to save money. But for me, it's also a little bit about, what how can I challenge myself to not be wasteful for one thing? Because I'm more and more conscious about being wasteful of food.
Right. Right.
Which leads me to another thing. It's like nowadays, these big giant meals that like as a kid I appreciated and loved, it's this is a big experience of food and it's a I don't eat the same way that I did when I was a child. I can't eat the same way I did as a child. I'm 45 years old. It's like I have to be mindful of my heart, my energy, all those things. And I
Nah.
love all the foods.
Just
Yeah,
just whatever.
just whatever.
Just whatever.
Just whatever.
Just yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
But that's I look forward to it, but like it's for me, the big thing is the gathering, you know. Um I hope I know my cousin's not watching right now. I'm gonna text her when we're done here, but I'm kind of hoping for some deviled eggs. We used to do twice baked potatoes. Uh,
Twice baked potatoes are absolutely delicious.
oh god, yeah.
They're some of the
Yeah.
best things in the world.
And you know what's fun about those? That was like, whenever we stepped in and said, "Hey, grandma, how can we help?" That was like one of those things. The deviled eggs, not so much the deviled eggs really, but the twice baked potatoes. We could always help her with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and she was always happy to get the help in the kitchen.
I am sorry, Nathan. I cannot stop yawning. Like I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not bored with your conversation. I just like
I've purposely taken a very soft and mild conversational tone today, and so
NPR talking
yeah,
softly.
talking softly on NPR. So let's talk. Let's talk about condensation today. When the heat.
Let's talk about condensation today.
By the way, as soon as I said condensation, we went from one viewer to
Yeah.
none.
Like,
You
all
know,
right, I'm out.
I love that we're having this conversation, and I know, that our biggest, I talk about our biggest audience all the time, and our biggest audience are people who are currently experiencing incarceration, and I was never in jail during the Christmas and Thanksgiving. I was in jail at Easter time, and that was always a big one for my mom's side of the family, the Catholic side, because we always got together and had a big brunch as a
Hmm.
family. Um, and I missed that. I mean, I missed family period when I was in jail, but that can be tough. I would,
Hmm.
missing family, you know, not being able to be with family, this time of year is tough. Um, and I know our participants are going to be struggling a little bit. I'm really grateful that we work our darndest. The people, the alumni who come and show up every day, the staff who come up and show up every day, the volunteers. Man, we had a volunteer bring a homemade pumpkin pie earlier today. That was my first taste of pumpkin pie this year. I was so happy. It was delicious. I was happy. I was very happy.
The
Yeah.
only way that I like pumpkin pie is if it's completely drenched in whipped cream,
Yeah.
and there's literally whipped cream with every bite. Once the whipped cream runs out, I'm no longer interested in the pumpkin pie.
I mean, I do feel that I like it that way too. I don't think there was whipped cream downstairs. I didn't see any. I did just have
There
the pie.
definitely was not, so I did not have any pumpkin pie.
There you go.
I was like, nope.
Somebody brought me shout out. Oh yeah. Shout out to Darian's grandma. I don't know if you're watching or not, but shout out to Darian's grandma's cookies. They are delish. They are delish, and they are currently in my office, and they are being consumed by me and other people, but not so much by other people, mostly me. They are delicious. Thank you. And I love that. This time of year, I don't know about you. It doesn't sound like you like to bake and cook a lot, but I mean, I love that. I don't do it as much anymore. I live. I mean, I live with other people, but we don't really cook together. Although I did actually cook with one of my housemates last night. The burgers,
Hmm.
they were so good. Oh God, I wish. Okay, so I did them. Okay, first of all, I am terrible when it comes to anything grilled. Like I don't know. I don't grill on a grill. I will. I mean, it's just like it's not my forte. And making burgers in a pan on a oven on a stove. I never cook burgers. So
Hmm.
me, I'm like, oh, let me cook these as hot as possible, and it'll cook faster. And I should know better, but I don't. So I'm cooking these as hot as possible, which means a lot of smoke. They're really nicely charbroiled, but let me cut into them. They're really thick burgers, and they're like raw
Raw.
inside,
Yeah.
which I like. I
Me
still prefer a
too.
burger to be more medium rare or to medium, but I knew he wouldn't like that. Anyway, I smoked up the house, but in making the burgers, there had four of them in the pack, and there were two of us, and I knew he only wanted one. I pulled one out, cut into it, and like, oh, that's not good. That's not cooked enough for him. So whatever. Let me just taste that again, though. Oh well, I mean that is really good. And then I ate the whole burger.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a few minutes later, I'm checking the next one. Well, not quite enough, but let me put half of that back in there. But let me just eat. Oh yeah, well, hold on. Well, hold on. Let me pull that. And then I'm like, okay, there's two down. I'm like, damn, Nathan.
You ate two burgers?
Without even like without the brioche bun, without the Monterey Jack cheese, without the sesame salad, it was just like it was the burger. And I did. Well, then I ate the third on the bun with the cheese and all the stuff. And yeah, that was my day. And now you see,
That was my day.
and now you see why I was beating myself up for missing my pool appointment this
That's
morning.
fair. I understand. I understand.
It's just funny because I woke up at like 4:30 this morning. And I do that now. Now it's like my body is so acclimated to waking up at 5 every day with the alarm that
This
yeah.
week off from the gym has been 5 o'clock, excuse me, 4:53.
It's always a few minutes
4:53.
before the alarm or
Every
before,
morning I'm
yeah.
just like, my body's like, hey, get up, time to do stuff. And I'm like, not today, Junior.
Well, my body's always like, time to pee.
Right.
Go do it now. But yeah. We're at the hour mark, man. Let's say goodbye to these fine folks and say happy Thanksgiving. You got anything else you want
Happy
to add?
Thanksgiving.
No?
Huh?
You got anything else you want to add? All right, good. Happy Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you all for showing up. And we will see you next week. We will do a show on Tuesday morning, but tomorrow or next week, Tuesday, November 30th at 7:30 p.m., we are hosting Representative Abigail Spanberger. She represents the 7th District here in Virginia. And John Carroll and I will be talking to her about some legislation that she's got going on. So think about that. Think about your questions and have a great Thanksgiving, great weekend ahead. Be safe and join a gym. Take care. Bye.